There are hundreds of sources on this topic. I'm not adding anything new. I'm just trying to respond to those who have asked me repeatedly about it with some advice and guidance, specifically aiming at the most typical problems of vegans looking to gain muscle. I am not a nutritionist or specialist. Due to the common, uninformed association between scrawniness, weakness, and veganism, many of us vegans seek to gain some muscle. Few things are as effective as a little muscle tissue to silence those with uninformed nutritional opinions. I'm aware that those who are really interested want me to cut to the chase and address the mistakes of vegans. But there are those who are oblivious to the topic and need the background to understand the matter. So this video will be an introduction. Most trainers are educated with carnist paradigms. They will point out that veganism is not suitable for muscle building. And also, many vegans who even understand a fair amount of biology still doubt that a plant-based nutrition is at some level detrimental to strength or muscle. The muscle is basically made up of three types of fiber. Slow fibers, type 1 or red fibers. Those that provide resistance, ideal for prolonged fatigue sports. Fast fibers, type 2 or white fibers, are those that respond immediately. They are the ones that generate more contraction and strength. They are the ones that gain and show more volume. The third type is a hybrid between the previous ones. It is important to spot muscle development or hypertrophy according to the activity. Ultramarathon runners can look skinny, and some may believe that they look sick, but this would be far from the truth. They are athletes who have developed slow fibers. A bodybuilder cannot aspire to achieve the same feats, because he has developed more the fast fibers, and his muscle mass is not adapted for resistance exercise. This is the body of a sprinter compared to a marathon runner. The disciplines determine the muscle mass that each one has according to the strength, resistance, and the most worked muscle fibers. It is worth mentioning that muscle and strength are not necessarily indicators of health. But developed slow muscle fibers are usually an indicator of general health, at least cardiovascular and respiratory health. In particular reference to visible muscle mass or volume, which is the subject, it can be said that muscle is associated with strength or force, but it's not a direct indicator. Force equals mass by acceleration. To understand this, we can compare the body composition of athletes that practice the disciplines that involve the most muscle development and the objectives they pursue. Powerlifters seek strength, increasing their one repetition max, meaning a single repetition of a squat, for example. They are not concerned with shaping the body. They tend to look less muscular than a bodybuilder, although they tend to generate more strength. The exercises they perform are similar to those of a bodybuilder, but in competition they are limited: bench press, deadlift, and squat. A weightlifter is somewhat similar, looking for strength but skillfully using it along with momentum to improve their 1 rep max. Competitively, they practice the snatch and clean and jerk seen in the Olympics. The strongman is an athlete who also pursues strength but also endurance in a series of repetitions that can be extended over a long period of time in competitive exercises. Muscle building or aesthetics are of little interest to strongmen. This discipline is often dominated by endomorphic individuals of oversized proportions who are capable of seemingly superhuman feats. Some exercises they perform are carrying logs, barrels, pulling trucks, and several more that vary in competitions. The bodybuilder seeks hypertrophy or muscle building. Strength is inevitably linked, but it is not the goal. The goal is to shape the body with the best-oriented exercises with a specific number of repetitions that tend to be between 5 and 15 reps, and with the right diet for the effect. There are other disciplines or non-competitive crossovers that combine principles and objectives, such as calisthenics, CrossFit, or simply training with weights. The aforementioned disciplines are the ones that are most useful for gaining muscle mass or volume. There are several sports that also do the trick, but to a lesser extent. We, the ordinary bipeds, do not need to practice them for competitive purposes. The same mechanic applies to any biped that is a natural, with natural hormone levels, regardless of whether they are vegan. There are at least 3 fundamental components to achieve some level of hypertrophy. They can be considered as legs of a table. If any of them fails, it doesn't matter how strong the other 2 are. The table will fall. 1. Exercise. 2. Nutrition. 3. Rest. That being said, there are emotional and hormonal components that can play a role, as well as ectomorphic, mesomorphic, and endomorphic body compositions, also metabolic issues. But nothing has the weight of the previous 3 points for the vast majority of bipeds. In general, the errors or shortcomings are in 1 or more of these 3 points. In this video, only a brief mention will be made of each one. 1. Exercise. It must be anaerobic. It must include the work of fast muscle fibers and the progressive increase in weight or intensity in training. Aerobic exercise is undoubtedly an investment in our health, more important than generating strength, but it does not help us to gain muscle. Jogging, walking, cycling, trekking, mountaineering, marathon running, dancing are things that do not serve or are not specific to gain muscle and can even act against it if nutrition is insufficient. As a general suggestion to identify the exercise that does not serve to gain muscle, if your heart rate accelerates for prolonged periods, that is cardiovascular or aerobic exercise. This does not mean that we shouldn't practice cardiovascular exercise, which would be a bad idea. It's just a clarification that we cannot expect to gain muscle from it. Sprinting, rowing, short-distance swimming, wrestling, MMA, boxing, martial arts, rock climbing, and some ball sports are exercises in the middle ground. Lifting or handling weights is the most effective activity for muscle development. Within this, we may find bodybuilding, calisthenics, strongman, CrossFit, powerlifting, and others alike. Common mistakes among new practitioners are training without a program, relying on accessory exercises, not training with the right frequency, and not increasing the weight progressively. 2. Nutrition. Muscle fiber requires sufficient calories, macro and micronutrients to reconstitute and grow. Similarly, the metabolism must be recharged with fuel to have energy. Empty calories, sucrose or sugar, alcohol and junk food often act to the detriment of muscle building and energy levels. Strict frugivore diets can be very healthy in every aspect, but they are not efficient for muscle building. In my opinion, the most typical mistake or shortcoming of vegans who seek to gain some muscle is that they don't eat enough. They don't consume enough calories. Subsequently, insufficient macronutrient rates might be the second most frequent mistake. 3. Rest. The muscle does not grow while we exercise or while we eat. It does so while we sleep. The standard that is usually recommended is 8 hours a day. For many, it works. In my case, 9 hours work better. For some, up to 7. For very, very few, 6 hours may work. But it is not just a matter of hours. It depends on the quality of rest and emotional and environmental aspects affect. For natural athletes, at least 48 hours are needed before working out a muscle or muscle group again, so that there is recovery and growth. Without sufficient rest, even though energy is present, muscle development will be diminished. In the future, the most frequent vegan mistakes will be dealt with, including my recommendations.